All right, welcome to the Deep Drive. Today, we're going to be tackling something that I think is pretty universally relevant. Job interviews. So whether you're just about to go for your very first role ever, or whether you are, seasoned in your career and looking to shift, or even if you just want to sharpen your skills, this deep dive is really for you.
That's right. And we're not just going to be giving the usual advice. We really want to arm you with some real insights, the kind that'll make you feel confident and really help you stand out.
Okay, so let's get into it then. And I think like a really foundational element of this is preparation, right? It may seem obvious, but I think the extent to which it can really transform your interview performance is often underestimated. I think it's not just about having answers, ready to go, but it's actually your secret weapon against, all those nerves that we get pre-interview. It allows you to actually walk in and feel like you're in control.
Absolutely. It's like your anchor in the interview storm. And a big part of that is company research. This isn't just a box to check. It's about understanding the company inside out.
So beyond just knowing what the company does, why is it so crucial to really delve deep before that interview?
Well, I think there's two things. First, it lets you tailor your answers. When you get their values, their mission, what they're aiming for, you can really frame your experience in a way that clicks with what they need. And second, it shows you're genuinely interested. Interviewers can spot a mile off when someone's just going through the motions, but showing you've done your homework, that says a lot about your commitment.
Okay, so how do we actually go about doing this research effectively then? Like, what are the key things we should be focusing on?
Start with the basics, their core values, their mission statement, usually plastered all over their website. Then dive into their products or services. Who are they selling to? What are their big goals for the future? You can usually find this in press releases or investor reports. Understanding this stuff helps you show you're proactive and you've thought things through.
And it's not just about the official narrative they present, right? There are other avenues to kind of get a more rounded understanding of the company as well.
Definitely. Check out job boards like Glassdoor or Indeed. Employee reviews there can give you a sneak peek into the company culture, the vibe. Social media is another goldmine. How do they present themselves online? What are they talking about? And don't forget their blog if they have one. This can give you clues about their expertise and what they care about.
I like that, like really kind of getting into the nitty gritty of what their kind of day-to-day is and what they're projecting outwards as well.
Yeah, exactly. And don't forget their annual report. It's not just numbers. It tells a story of their achievements and their struggles. Now, think about it. You can frame your skills and experience as solutions to those struggles you've uncovered in your research.
Okay, so we've pieced together this kind of mosaic of information then. What tangible advantage does this actually give us during the interview itself?
It helps you figure out if the company really aligns with what you want in a job, with your values. And by mentioning specific projects or things you found in your research, you show the interviewer you're not just randomly applying, you're informed and genuinely interested.
Okay, so foundation laid, know the company. What's the next critical step in this preparation phase then?
Now it's time to get under the skin of that job description. Don't just skim it. Study it. Every requirement, every skill, every responsibility listed is a clue to what the interviewer is looking for.
A blueprint, basically, for understanding exactly what they're after.
Exactly. So examine each thing carefully. What are the key skills they're after? Is it teamwork, communication, leadership? Maybe it's technical skills like knowing a specific software.
Okay, so once we've pinpointed those key skills then, what do we do?
Time for some honest self-reflection. Look at your own strengths and see where they match up. Where do your skills shine? And be honest, are there any gaps?
And should we try and hide those gaps?
No way. Addressing them head-on shows initiative and a willingness to learn. And with so many online resources these days, it's easier than ever. Let's say they need someone who knows a particular software and you don't. Well, take an online course, learn the basics. That effort shows you're keen to learn and adapt.
I think, yeah, that proactive approach really shows, that you're someone who's willing to really, you know, kind of go the extra mile to fill in those gaps. Okay, so we focused on really understanding the kind of external requirements then, the company, the job description. Let's turn inwards now and talk about self-reflection and, that all-important thing of crafting stories.
This is where you connect your skills and experiences to what the job needs. It's not enough to just say you have a certain skill. You need to show it. And the best way to do that is with specific examples from your work history.
This is where the STAR method comes in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk us through how to use that effectively?
Sure. STAR stands for Situation, Task, Action, Result. It's a way to structure your answers. So first you set the scene, the situation. Then you describe your task or responsibility in that situation. What were you trying to achieve? Next, you explain the actions you took to address the situation. And finally, you describe the results, what happened because of your actions, and try to quantify your achievements if possible.
So it's basically a way to make sure your answers are like concise and impactful.
Exactly. It stops you rambling and ensures you cover all the important points. And if you're interviewing in English as a second language, practicing with the STAR method can really help with clarity and structure.
So speaking of experiences, behavioral interview questions are all about that, right? Those past situations.
Absolutely. You know, those questions that start with, tell me about a time when, or describe a situation where they're not just making small talk. Employers use these to see how you've handled things in the past, because that's often the best predictor of how you'll handle things in the future. How do you deal with pressure? How do you work in a team? How do you solve problems?
So the STAR method's like essential for these types of questions.
Totally essential. It keeps things structured and to the point. Let's go back to that example of resolving a conflict with a colleague. Using the STAR method, you'd first describe the situation, the conflict itself. Then, you'd outline your task, what your role was in resolving it. Next, you detail the actions you took. Maybe you initiated a conversation or organized a meeting to talk things through. Finally, you describe the result. How was the conflict resolved? What was the positive impact? Did the team dynamic improve?
It's almost like a mini story then, with a beginning, middle, and end, and really emphasizes what you did and the impact of your actions.
Spot on. And remember, preparation is about anticipating. Think about the specific job. What kind of situations might you face? If it's a management role, prepare stories that highlight your leadership skills, how you handle conflict, how you build teams. If it's a technical role, focus on examples that show your problem-solving abilities, your attention to detail, how you overcome technical challenges.
No, it's not all one-way traffic, is it? I mean, the interviewee also has a really valuable opportunity to ask questions.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. Asking thoughtful questions shows you're curious, engaged, proactive. It's also your chance to figure out if this job is really right for you.
So what kind of questions should we be thinking about preparing beforehand then?
Ask about things like team culture, company goals, professional development opportunities, even challenges they might be facing. Those questions show you're thinking beyond just the job description. You're interested in the bigger picture.
And are there any types of questions we should maybe steer clear of, especially early on?
Yeah, generally, it's best not to jump straight into questions about salary, vacation time, benefits, unless the interviewer brings it up first. Asking about those things too early can give the wrong impression, like you're more interested in the perks than the work itself.
Makes sense, focus on the substance, the role, the culture, how you can actually contribute. Okay, so we've covered the kind of the mental preparation then. What about the practical side of getting ready for an interview?
Just as important. For in-person interviews, plan your journey. Know the address, check travel times. Aim to arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. Being on time shows respect, and being late makes a terrible first impression.
And for those increasingly common virtual interviews then?
Tech check is crucial. Test your internet, webcam, microphone well in advance.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have a quiet space where you won't be interrupted. Tidy up your background. Think about the lighting. You want to look professional and ensure you're clearly visible and audible.
So to wrap up this kind of deep dive into preparation then, we've talked about really understanding the company, dissecting that job description, thinking about yourself and your experiences, and making sure that you've got all those logistical details handled as well. What's the kind of cumulative effect of all of this? What does it do for us?
It makes you feel prepared, confident, in control. You'll be composed, articulate, and ready to shine.
Okay, let's move on to section 2 then. Making a great first impression. Now, you always hear that, first impressions are critical, but just how important are they in the context of a job interview?
They are huge. Interviewers start forming opinions about you within minutes, sometimes even seconds. Your qualifications are important, of course, but that first impression sets the tone for the whole conversation. It shapes how they see your confidence, your preparation, your enthusiasm.
Okay, so what are the key things that contribute to that positive first impression then? Let's start with appearance. That age-old advice, dress for success. What does that actually mean in practice today?
It means showing you take the opportunity seriously by how you present yourself. Dress appropriately for the company and the role. When in doubt, err on the side of being a little more formal.
Even if they're a company that's known for having a very casual kind of work environment.
Even then, dressing up a bit shows respect, shows you've made an effort. So if they're casual, maybe go for business casual. A button-down shirt, a blouse, slacks. It shows you understand the context of the interview.
And it's not just about the clothes, right? Details matter.
Totally. Make sure your clothes are clean, well-fitting, ironed, polish your shoes. Pay attention to grooming, a neat haircut, tidy beard, good hygiene. These little things add up. And avoid anything too flashy or distracting. You want the focus to be on you and what you have to say, not your outfit.
Okay, so appearance is the first part of that first impression.
Yeah.
Then there's body language. Confidence is key. How can we actually project that confidence non-verbally?
Your body language speaks volumes. When you enter the room or join the virtual meeting, stand or sit tall, shoulders back. For in-person interviews, a firm handshake, good eye contact, not staring, but engaging.
What about once you're seated? What should we be doing with our posture?
Sit up straight, don't slouch. Slouching makes you look disinterested. Be mindful of your hands, keep them relaxed and visible, maybe resting in your lap or on the table. Avoid crossing your arms, it can make you seem closed off.
Any extra tips for virtual interviews specifically?
Yeah, make sure you're comfortable so you can sit up properly throughout the interview. Try not to fidget. Avoid looking around the room or checking your phone. It's distracting. And as with in-person interviews, that quiet, tidy space is crucial.
Okay, so moving on to the third element of making a great first impression, your voice. And I think this can be really tricky when those nerves kick in.
Definitely. Nerves are natural, but try to control your speaking pace. When we get anxious, we tend to speed up. Speaking slowly and clearly, especially when you're nervous, helps the interviewer understand you and gives you time to think.
And what about articulation? Speaking clearly in those pesky filler words, the ums and ahs.
Articulation is key. Mumbling or rushing your words can make you hard to understand. If English isn't your first language, practice speaking slowly and clearly. As for filler words, a few are normal, but too many ums and ahs make you sound less confident. Practice pausing briefly to gather your thoughts instead of filling the silence with those words.
And finally, a simple yet super important tip. Smile.
Smiling makes you more approachable, shows you're enthusiastic, it creates a positive atmosphere. Even if you're nervous, try to let your genuine interest shine through. Interviewers are looking for someone who'd be a good fit for the team, and a positive attitude is a big part of that. So smile when you greet them, both in person and virtually, and smile naturally throughout the conversation.
So first impressions are crucial for setting the stage, but they are just the beginning, right?
Absolutely. A good first impression gets you in the door, but your knowledge, experience, and communication skills are what seal the deal. Keep that momentum going throughout the interview. Stay engaged, give well-thought-out answers, and keep that enthusiasm up.
All right, so we've covered how to prepare and how to make a great first impression. Now let's talk about actually answering those common interview questions. What are some of the key ones we should be ready for?
There are a few that come up almost every time. The classic, tell me about yourself, is pretty much guaranteed. But remember, they don't want your life story. Focus on your professional journey, how you got to where you are now. A good structure is present, past, future. Start with your current role, then touch on relevant past experiences, and finish by explaining why you're interested in this specific position and how it fits into your career goals.
Another common one is, what is your greatest strength? How do we make the most of that question?
This is your chance to showcase a skill that's relevant to the job. But don't just state it, back it up with an example. So if you say you're a great problem solver, describe a specific time you solved a problem, outlining the steps you took and the positive outcome. And if you can quantify the results, even better.
And then there's the dreaded, what is your greatest weakness? How do we handle that one honestly without shooting ourselves in the foot?
This is about showing self-awareness and a willingness to learn. Avoid cliches like, I'm a perfectionist or I work too hard. Pick a genuine weakness that's not central to the job and explain how you're working to improve it. For example, if you struggle with delegating, you could say you're actively working on building trust in your team and learning delegation techniques through training or mentorship.
Why do you want to work here?
Yeah.
Another classic. And this is where that company research really pays off, right?
Big time. This is about showing genuine interest. Connect your goals and values to their mission and values. Mention specific things about the role or company that excite you, like a particular project, their industry leadership, or development opportunities that align with your aspirations.
And of course, there's the question that almost always comes at the end. Do you have any questions for us?
So important. This is your last chance to show you're engaged and curious. Have a few well-thought-out questions ready. Don't ask stuff that's easily found on their website. Ask about things like team culture, long-term vision, potential challenges within the role. It shows you've done your homework and you're thinking deeply about the opportunity.
Okay, so we've got strategies for the standard questions. But what about those curveballs, those tougher questions they sometimes throw in to see how you handle pressure?
Right, those questions are designed to test your composure, your thinking on your feet, your professionalism. Let's take, why did you leave your last job? This one can be tricky, especially if the circumstances weren't ideal.
Especially if it wasn't voluntary, like if you were laid off.
In that case, keep it factual, brief, and avoid negativity. Focus on what you learned and how it relates to your career goals. You could say something like, my role was eliminated due to restructuring, which allowed me to reassess my priorities, and I'm excited about how well my skills align with this role.
What if it was more complex, like if performance issues were involved?
Honesty is key, but control the narrative. Acknowledge it without dwelling on the negative. Emphasize the lessons learned and the steps taken to improve. You might say, in my previous role, there were some areas where my performance didn't meet expectations. I took that feedback to heart and have focused on mention a specific skill, and actively seeking feedback to ensure continuous improvement.
Another potential sticking point is gaps in employment history. What's the best way to handle that?
Be upfront and explain the reason for the gap, whether it was personal, for further education, or taking time to find the right opportunity. Highlight any productive activities or skills development during that time. If it was for family care, mention it briefly, but also emphasize how you kept your skills sharp. If it was for education or training, emphasize how it makes you an even stronger candidate. Show that the time was used purposefully and you're ready to jump back in.
Now, sometimes they'll throw in those unexpected kind of gotcha questions like, what did you do if you were offered another job tomorrow? How do you handle that?
Stay calm and focused on the present opportunity. They're trying to gauge your commitment. You could say, that's a hypothetical, and right now I'm very interested in this opportunity at company name. I'm eager to learn more about how I can contribute to your team. It shows you're genuinely interested in this role.
So the overall approach for tough questions is stay composed, be honest but strategic, and focus on your growth and potential in the role you're interviewing for.
Exactly. Don't get defensive or emotional. Take a moment to think before answering and always be truthful. Remember, your body language still matters. Maintain eye contact. Sit up straight. If you're nervous, take a deep breath. Frame your answers around solutions and lessons learned.
And are there kind of things we should avoid saying, like verbal red flags?
One big one is speaking negatively about past employers. When they ask, why do you want to leave your current job? Don't badmouth your boss or coworkers, no matter how tempting it is. It's unprofessional. Keep it positive, focus on your aspirations for growth and the reasons this new role excites you. And if there are potential red flags in your history, like job hopping, be ready to address them proactively. Highlight the transferable skills you gained and how they make you a strong fit for this specific opportunity.
So handling those tough questions well can actually work in your favor, showcasing your resilience and professionalism.
Exactly. It's about turning potential negatives into positives and demonstrating why you're the right person for the job, even when faced with tough questions.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From preparing thoroughly to making a great first impression, answering common questions, and tackling those tougher ones.
And the key takeaways are clear. Preparation builds confidence, first impressions matter, articulate answers showcase your skills, and handling tough questions well demonstrates your professionalism.
So for everyone out there prepping for their next job interview, remember, preparation, practice, and a positive attitude are your biggest allies. Keep honing those skills, and you'll be well on your way to landing that dream job.
Now think about this. What part of the interview process do you feel most confident about? And maybe even more important, what area could you work on? What could you improve? That self-awareness and desire to keep learning, that's what will really make you stand out in your career.